Hello, everyone. It was a rather slow start yesterday, and I'm looking forward to what highlights hold for us today. It's been a while since I did this, right? So I'm thinking that, there might be kind of a loss of flow, but it also gives me an opportunity to do this little differently. So let's get started today and see how it goes. Okay, the first one is from an article. Okay, it's a recent article that I've read. And interestingly, I read this through this new application they launched called Reader. And anyway, let's look at the article. Sorry, at the highlight. Larger PRs tend to be harder to review in the same way, either decreasing the quality of the review or dramatically increasing the time it takes and the number of review cycles. As a thorough review of a larger PR means a higher probability of finding mistakes that need correction. So this article is about different KPIs that CTOs would find useful within an organization, and one of those things is the size of the PR. And there was an opinion over there that it should really be less than 500 lines or even 200 lines. And the idea is that the reasoning is that larger PRs are harder to review in every way. It's first of all, it's a larger PR, so people are more likely to just say looks good, looks good to me. Or even if they review it clearly, there is a higher chance of problems within the PR, which means it takes longer time for corrections to come in, and that means the PR is stuck for longer. So yeah, in all ways, larger PRs should be avoided. This highlight just goes to show that as much as possible, we should focus on creating smaller and smaller PRs as much as possible, so that they can be quickly merged, quickly reviewed, and quickly merged. So let's move on. Think again. I'm looking for disagreeable people who are givers, not takers. Disagreeable givers often make the best critics. Their intent is to elevate the work, not feed their own egos. I think it's pretty much clear. I don't really think I need to add anything to this. Disagreeable people who are takers, they're just in it for their own self-serving, and they're not really going to give you any, what we call constructive criticism. It's just they are saying it because they need to say it, not because you need to hear it. Yeah, so disagreeable people who are givers, those are the people who you want on your teams, or in your life, in your circle. They make the best credits, they best critic sorry, they make the best critics. The intent is to elevate the work, not feed their own egos. Okay, so from Effortless, when we are struggling to name the first obvious action, we need to either make it a little easier to get started on what's important now, or make it a little harder to do something trivial instead. Looking at that first step or action through the lens of 2.5 seconds is the change that makes every other change possible. It is the habit of habits. Right. I think this kind of aligns very closely with what we've been reading in Getting Things Done as well. With identifying the first action, that's the hard step. But once you do it, you're able to start it. And the benchmark this highlight gives us 2.5 seconds. That's the lens to look at it. That when you have your action and you can begin with it in the next 2.5 seconds, it's much harder for you to procrastinate with something trivial instead. So yeah, it's like this highlight gives a different perspective, but I think essentially says the same thing what we have been reading in Getting Things Done. That is identifying the first action. Not that okay, this is the project I need to do, but this is the first action I need to take. Moving on. The Anthropocene Reviewed. What you're looking at matters, but not as much as how you're looking or who you're looking with. That night, I was with just the right person in just the right place, and I'll be damned if the grapple wasn't beautiful. hmm I kind of recall the context, but I think this was, I mean, I don't think you need the context to appreciate this. Um, what you're looking at matters, but not as much as how you're looking or who you're looking with. And something as boring as grapple could become like most fascinating thing that you have witnessed. So yeah, let's move on. Remote, not distant. The research is clear. Telling others what they should improve actually hinders learning, right? And I can't recall the context very clearly. This is along the lines of making it simple for, or at least, the delusion that we have that we are making it simple for others to learn if we tell them exactly what to improve rather than letting them figure it out on their own. The struggle is what improves learning, not the ease of learning. Ease of learning actually hinders long term learning capability. So so if we just tell somebody what they should improve, that actually hinders learning. That's not going to, yeah, they may accept it at that moment, but it's not going to create the same impact as figuring it out for themselves. And this is again a thought mirrored in many other books. I think particularly, I think that book Mind for Numbers, and one other book, Range, I think. So a lot of these books go back to the same idea that if you make it easy to learn, we're actually hindering learning. Let's move on. Extreme ownership. But a leader must remain calm and make the best decisions possible. To do this, SEAL combat leaders utilize, prioritize, and execute. We verbalize this principle with this direction: relax, look around, make a call. I think this is pretty clear. I don't really feel I need to add anything to this. I'll just repeat the keywords here. Prioritize and execute, and do that calmly. You can't prioritize if you're not being calm. So, uh, with this direction, the direction that the highlight mentions: relax, look around, and make a call. Let's moving on. Think again. When we argue about why, we run the risk of becoming emotionally attached to our positions and dismissive of the other sides. We are more likely to have a good fight if we argue about how. This is in the context of saying that, or when you're arguing, when you're trying to hold your ground, and if you start talking about why, you'll find a lot of whys, rational or irrational. You'll find a lot of whys that will make you stick your ground. It'll cause you to dig in further. And the examples over here are, in the book, the examples over here are things like political affiliations, or uh, view on sensitive topics like, climate change, for example, or education, stuff like that. So if we go on to have a discussion about why, we are more likely to dig our ground. So if we argue about how, that's where we can actually work together to find a common path forward. And the book goes into a lot more depth explaining all of this. So I don't think I can do justice to that right now. So uh, go read this book. Think Again is an excellent book. Let's move on. Thanks for the feedback. Another excellent book. Make your endeavor to learn explicit. Encourage people to discuss your blind spots with you. Shift from blame conversations to joint contribution conversations. And start by asking what you might have contributed to the problem. Hold people accountable by showing them how you hold yourself accountable alongside them. Okay, I think it's a collection of advices, and really, I think the highlight is, make your endeavor to learn explicit. Just don't passively um, passively react. And of course, you should do that too. You should always try to learn from any situation, but you should do more than that. You should make it explicit and encourage. So you're encouraging people to discuss your blind spots with you. Not just that you're open when somebody comes up, but you're actually encouraging it. And similar things, similar. All the remaining sentences are along the similar line, along similar lines. Hold people accountable by showing them how you hold yourself accountable alongside them. So I think like a lot of different advice, good advice over here. Moving on. Cues. One of the best ways to use fronting is to make a point of turning towards someone and aligning with them. This is especially important when you're taking notes on a computer. You immediately become more charismatic by fronting with someone. Do it while standing in the break room, while mingling at a bar or conference, or even when talking to your children. Fronting refers to, I think I've covered this in a previous highlight also. Fronting refers to facing with body, with torso, with feet towards the person who you're talking to. There are two ways, you can have a conversation. You can face somewhere else, and you can have this kind of, you can have this kind of, okay, I'm talking to you. I'm looking over my shoulder talking to you. Or, I'm kind of, my feet are elsewhere, but I'm like kind of slightly turning towards you. You know, that's one way to have a conversation, or fronting. That is, I turn entirely towards the camera, for example, right now as I'm showing it right now, turning, with feet, with torso, completely focused on what you're seeing, and that is a lot more charismatic. That's the essence of this highlight, and the author encourages to use it in all the different settings that you have. Moving on, the molecule of more. Dopamine encourages us to maximize our resources by rewarding us when we do so. The act of doing something well or making our future a better, safer place gives us a little dopamine buzz. Again, I'll not go too deep into this. Like I said, neuroscience isn't really my subject. So I don't think this is something that I can talk about very well. But, this highlight, it's, I don't know if it's perfectly clear what it's talking about, but, it is what it is. I'll move on for now. And I think that's it. We are at the end of our highlights. And I think we did a little longer today with 11 minutes compared to yesterday, but still, I think it's, I mean, at a sweet spot for now. And we'll see how this goes. Thank you for watching.